What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got some red Digimon that we need to be having a little bit of a chat about. Translations here are coming from the lovely folks over at Ensan Gaming, as well as the lovely folks over at DigimonCard.dev, so we might as well start off with a level 2. We've got ourselves a Coromon. And being a level 2, we got one inheritable skill, and this one's rather simple. On your turn, if this Digimon has Agumon or Greymon in its name, this Digimon gains 1000 power. It's very straightforward, very simple. Like a lot of the level 2 Digitama we see, this is very much dependent on the kind of deck you're playing. If you're playing a Greymon deck, brilliant. If you're not so good. 1000 power is not amazing for a Digitama, it's about standard, there's nothing hugely special going on here, but this is still kind of cool. This is still something we can get a little bit excited about. This is something that'll work quite nicely. Of course, we do have a rather lovely combo here with the promo Agumon, the one that was a magazine promo over in Japan, the one that was, well, it was one of our Booster 1.0 and 1.5 box topper promos over here. Because that one said, while you had Greymon in your name, you get an extra 2000 power. And that's a cool card. We've seen that see a bunch of play in a bunch of decks here and there. So, honestly, I kind of like the idea of chucking these together, and if you're playing a Greymon deck, WarGrowlmon, MetalGreymon, whatever it might be, hey, you're getting yourselves an extra 3000 power. It's a nice combo, but really this is a pretty easy card to talk about. If you're playing a Greymon focused deck, love it. If you're not playing a Greymon focused deck, don't like it very much. There we go. Nice and simple. But we do have a couple of big fancy level 5s to be talking about, and the first one we need to mention here is your MetalGreymon X-Antibody. Now what we got here is an 8 cost to play normally, 3 cost to Digivolve, 8000 power, and given that level 5s are generally 737 or 838, this makes it on the higher end, but nothing unusual. But like pretty much all the X-Antibody cards we see in this set, you can Digivolve from a MetalGreymon, paying 0 memory, which is quite nice. And then of course you got all the things that go along with that. You draw a card when you Digivolve, which is quite nice. It means you can take advantage of any inheritable skills that any MetalGreymon might have, like for instance the secret rare from BT9 that gives you an extra 3000 power. As an example, sounds pretty good. That's the one that springs to mind for me anyway. So you get all those advantages. It's not necessarily the reason to play the card. You're Digivolving a level 5 into a level 5. You don't have to pay, which is rather lovely. It's a nice cool thing. It's a nice little bonus. I don't know if it's necessarily the reason to play the card in the first place. However, when you Digivolve, until the end of your opponent's next turn, this Digimon gains security attack +1. Then if this Digimon has a card named MetalGreymon or X-Antibody in its evolution sources, until the end of your opponent's next turn, this Digimon gains +3000 power. Yeah, this is redonk. This is phenomenal. This is why you play it. Because you see, this is an evolution skill, but bearing in mind you can Digivolve it from MetalGreymon for 0 memory. And, okay, you get security attack +1, but let's be real, you got 8000 power, you need to be slightly worried about attacking the stack. Except you don't. Because, of course, if you've Digivolved from MetalGreymon, you'll have an extra 3000 power, so you're actually on 11,000. If you've Digivolved from the secret rare from BT9, there's another 3000, so now it's not actually 11, it's 14. Plus Coromon will give you an extra 1000 power. The promo Agumon will give you an extra 2000 power. If you've gone Coromon to Agumon to whatever, to MetalGreymon to this, you are adding 9000 power. 3 from the Digivolution skill, 3 from the MetalGreymon, 2 from the Agumon, 1 from the Coromon, and now all of a sudden you're sitting there as a 17,000 power, and at that point you might as well have jamming. Like, you don't actually have jamming, but what, you know, the maximum we've seen in terms of base power is 16. You're good. You are good. So you're basically taking out 2 security cards with your level 5, and then rolling from there, presumably moving up into a level 6 and carrying on the game. If I'm playing a MetalGreymon deck, if I'm playing any deck with MetalGreymon, you had better believe I'm putting this in my deck. There is no way I'm not putting this in my deck if I am playing any deck with MetalGreymon. No chance whatsoever. Because this is ridiculous. It's an extra card you put in as a bonus level 5, and anytime I've got MetalGreymon, I'm just like, 0 cost to evolve, attack of an 11,000 power Digimon with security attack +1, and bearing in mind, even with no other buffs, you're still only really being deleted by level 6s and 7s. You should be fine the vast majority of the time. And of course, you've then got any of the other boosts you might be using. So yeah, this is a phenomenal card. I absolutely adore this. This is one that I think we need to take really seriously and keep a very, very close eye on, because, you can make a deck around this. You can make a red X-Antibody deck and this will work perfectly. But you don't have to. This can be as simple as, you know what? I'm playing a red deck. I'm playing MetalGreymon. Although this isn't necessarily the main way I want to go with a deck, actually, why would I not do this? This seems a little bit too good. I think this is a phenomenal card, and frankly, it's one that I think you should all be getting a little bit excited about. Unless you don't want to play red decks, or you hate MetalGreymon, in which case, fine, I suppose. You do you, ladies and gentlemen. You do you. But we do have a couple of other red Digimon we need to have a little bit of a chat about. So let's go and look at Growlmon X-Antibody. Now this is a level 4, 5 cost to play normally, 2 cost to Digivolve, 6,000 power. Nah, that's all over the place. I don't like that. Generally speaking, right, with level 4s, what we really want is like 4-2-4. And don't get me wrong, I am loving the 6,000 power. And I'm loving that it's no more to Digivolve than normal, but 5 cost is expensive, and it's just a little bit weird. The good news is I can Digivolve from Growlmon for a 2 cost, and we're not going to keep talking about this skill over and over again in the same video. You know the deal. You can get extra inheritable skills, you can Digivolve up to draw a card, you can take advantage of a whole bunch of stuff, and that's quite lovely. Worth noting, this does not, however, have a really good Digivolution skill, so we are not talking like MetalGreymon X-Antibody here. This is very much not the same kind of thing. Still kind of cool though. We've then got an inheritable skill. You add 1,000 power to the maximum DP you can choose with DP based deletion effects. And I know this is kind of awkward and I'm sorry, but think of something like Growlmon. Growlmon, when you Digivolve, if you got a red tamer, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 6,000 power or less. This would raise that up to 7,000 power or less, as an example. It's very much a Growlmon into Growlmon kind of thing. It's not the first time we've seen a skill along these lines. It's kind of cool, honestly. If you're playing this kind of deck, if you're trying to delete with skills and all of that, this is going to work rather lovely indeed. Interestingly enough, it's the same, I believe, same inheritable skill as the WarGrowlmon from EX2, which raises the maximum DP of deletion effects by 1,000. I believe it is literally the same skill, but now you've got your level 4 and your level 5 that are both doing the same thing, and that ain't bad, ladies and gentlemen. That ain't bad at all. But we might want to go a little bit bigger, so how about moving on to the level 5 WarGrowlmon X-Antibody. And here we've got an 8 cost to play normally, 3 cost to Digivolve, 8,000 power. So once again, we've got that 838, which is on the higher end of what we tend to see for level 5s. And again, you can Digivolve from WarGrowlmon for 0. Interesting to note, it says Digivolve from WarGrowlmon, not a Digimon with WarGrowlmon in its name. There is a very important distinction. But when you Digivolve, until the next time your opponent's turn ends, 2 of your opponent's Digimon gain, on deletion, lose 1 memory. So, essentially what you do is you designate 2 of your opponent's Digimon that you are going to be deleting, and then your opponent's going to lose 2 memory. Obviously, if you're not going after their Digimon, it's going to be a lot less good, but it does work until the end of your opponent's next turn. So, if you designate 2 Digimon that you then don't delete, that makes things a little bit awkward for your opponent. Because they can attack the stack, but they know that if they attack the stack with that Digimon and they end up getting deleted, not only do they lose a Digimon, which is generally bad enough, honestly, but they're also losing a memory, and that might be enough for them to take a step back and not go for the attack that they otherwise would go for. That's kind of cool, ladies and gentlemen. That's kind of cool. Although mostly this is designate Digimon, delete them, your opponent loses 2 memory, ha ha ha. Or you gain 2 memory, it's the same kind of thing, honestly. But then if this Digimon has WarGrowlmon or X-Antibody in its Digivolution cards, choose any number of your opponent's Digimon whose total power adds up to 6,000 or less, and delete them. It's WarGrowlmon, right? This is what it does. It deletes Digimon. The one from EX2, when you attack, deleted one of your opponent's Digimon with 4,000 power or less, and then if you had a red tamer in play, you deleted one of your opponent's Digimon with 6,000 power or less instead. This is what WarGrowlmon does. But it's still kind of a cool skill. Do remember, like we've mentioned a few times now in these videos, when it says if it has X-Antibody in its Digivolution sources, it means the option card X-Antibody. It does not mean an X-Antibody Digimon. That is, again, a very important thing. So you've got cheeky Digivolution, and you get to essentially designate 2 Digimon to lose memory, and then delete a couple of Digimon. I like it. If you can find 2 3,000 power Digimon on your opponent's side of the board, designate those 2, delete them both because they add up to 6,000, gain 2 memory. That ain't bad, ladies and gentlemen. That ain't bad at all. It does not excite me like MetalGreymon X-Antibody, which I do think can be nuts, but it's still a cool Digimon with some cool skills. And while we're here, I suppose we should also have a little bit of a chat about an option card as well, just because it fits in very nicely to what we're talking about. We've got ourselves Atomic Megalo Blaster. It's a 6-cost option card that does the same thing as a security and a main skill. Choose any number of your opponent's Digimon whose total power adds up to 10,000 or less and delete them. It's kind of cool. It's very much fitting with WarGrowlmon and everything we've just said about it. But frankly, 6 is very expensive, and I love that I've got the option to go and get 2 3s and a 4. Or a 5 and a 5, or something like that, or a 4 and a 6. But when I've got cards like this, I want to be able to take out the biggest, baddest Digimon that my opponent is about to start wrecking me with, and that is just not an option I've got with this option card. For 6 memory, it's a bit expensive, so I suppose if you're playing in a meta where you're going to be constantly wanting to take out multiple smaller Digimon, this is really good, and it is really good, but the fact that it doesn't take out bigger Digimon, and you know, your average level 6 is 11,000 power, not a coincidence, they clearly designed cards like this. So that means that essentially I'm never getting a level 6, unless it's a particularly weak level 6, and honestly that just really puts me off this card. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen, we got some WarGrowlmon fun, we got some MetalGreymon fun, and I think I've been pretty clear as to which one I think is better. But now it's over to you guys. I want to know which of these you think is good. I want to know if you think they're both terrible. I want to know, quite frankly, anything you want to tell me. So let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWazi. That's where we talk Digimon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching WASI Plays.